to okay, as much as we can, please in the comment section, put your expectations. If you do have expectations for this meeting, wise people will say that you're never going to a meeting without an expectation, else what do you know that they meet, right? So I'm very, very sure, I'm very, very certain that, we all have our expectations, especially for those of us that have been here from the first session. From day one, we've been seeing the build up from the amazing people that have taken us, right? We've heard from Sokaribo, who took us through, turning your startup, your ideas into reality, who gave us, insights into entrepreneurship and how to manage your entrepreneurship journey, rather. And then we also heard from Jago Emmanuel, who came with a lot of strategies in and around investment, and spoke to us through how we're going to be able to better manage our finances, especially as it relates to investing, our monies and the different instruments for those. And then on the third day, we heard from Niranthi Nayakara, who, took us through different opportunities or how to explore different opportunities. She spoke to, our personal branding and, how that sort of like positions you, for global opportunities. And we also heard from Zainab Ismaila, who took us through, health and wellness across board. As well as Dr. Wale Fakonda yesterday, who took us through real estate as a wealth tool, and passionately, like Mona Lisa rightly pointed out, passionately took us through, landed properties, what real estate investment even is in and of itself, and how we can better our finances as we grow, and the different cadres through which we can come in to the real estate investment industry, so to say. Right. And then today we'll have our Dr. Silk, who will be taking us through strategies and communication. Like we rightly said yesterday, what's the essence? What's the point of all of your expertise? What's the point of all of your technical know-how, your knowledge, if you're unable to properly strategize on how to use that to grow your career and communicate that to all the necessary stakeholders that, is relevant for. So again, I hope you have come expectant. Please note that the videos for all of these sessions are available, the recordings rather, for all of these sessions are available on YouTube. At some point during the session, we'll put the link either in the chat box or we'll send to your emails as is. I'm not quite sure what the channel is, but we'll put a link on the chat box so that you're able to access the other videos. If this is your first session, I promise you there's been a lot of amazing things that happened before today. So you might need to catch up on the videos. You might even need to go back to the videos again. And we understand that, some of us have people who were unable to make it to this session, but you know what? You're like, this is my friend. This is my colleague. I want you to listen. I want you to learn. I want us to win together come 2025. Like they say, one car cannot make a convoy. So if you have your fellow convoy buddies that you like to catch up on all of the videos, please by all means direct them towards the YouTube recordings where they're able to catch up and join the conversation. Next, we're going to be welcoming Dr. Silk Ugwu, who is an associate professor of communications and relationship management in Lagos Business School. His early education spanning from the University of Calabar, where he received the BSc in political science. Since then, he has earned 3 different PhD degrees in related fields, which are political science and international relations, marketing and public relations, and public administration, rather. His research interests are in the areas of political communication, conflict resolution, creativity and innovation, negotiation, marketing strategies, leadership strategies, development communication, stakeholder engagement, brand management, and public communication. He currently teaches at the Lagos Business School Pan Atlantic University of Lagos. And from very personal experience, it is my honor to welcome Dr. Silk Ogbu. Okay, so you can't hear the clap, but I'm clapping on behalf of everybody.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Precious. Thank you very
Welcome
much
aboard.
for this warm welcome.
Thank you,
Okay,
sir.
guys,
Welcome.
how have you been? How are you doing?
Good,
How
sir.
have you been? How have you guys been?
Very good,
Very
sir.
well.
Doing great, too. So good to see you again.
Yeah, really good to see you today. Executives.
Mm.
Executives.
Mm.
Executives.
Mm.
How many times have I called you?
3 times,
Three
sir.
times.
Just 3 times.
Only 3 times.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes,
I
sir.
hope you have been behaving well since
Yes, sir.
all
We're
of
trying
you
our best, sir.
you have been on your best behaviors, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
applying wisdom everywhere.
you're applying wisdom.
The wisdom has been working in our favor.
Amen. 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 I like to hear that. Okay, so we're going to move quickly into this conversation. I think you guys want me to talk to you about communication and how to use that to drive your strategy. So putting it all together, let me see. I think I have slide here that I want to share. Okay. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. So putting it all together in a better way, putting all your ideas into action. So you're thinking about strategy and how to drive all the ideas that you have towards execution. And communication is the moderator. How do you implement ideas that you have, especially when you're working with people? You need to communicate. And I think that perhaps what most of us um, who have businesses so far within the class must have understood is that the problem is not with coming up, it's not necessarily about coming up with the best ideas or with innovative ideas. I mean, we think and we are creative, so it's possible that we generate these ideas and think about, new ways of doing things. But how do we put those ideas into action? So within that context, I'm going to have this conversation with you from two parts or two angles, looking at you as business leaders. So I'm going to discuss with you what businesses do to drive the execution of their strategy. I'm also going to look at you as members of MMBA7, a dynamic class that wants to succeed together. And in that context, how do you take these ideas that are applied to businesses to make them succeed to your own class to enable you to succeed also as one? So we're going to discuss these ideas within the context of business because you should have a commercial mindset. And if you want MMBA to succeed, MMBA7 to succeed as a class, you also have to be strategic. So you must think the way that business leaders do. Therefore, I would say that, yes, the major secret to success when it comes to strategy execution is what? Communication and forward planning. I say this not because I teach communication, but because I've practiced, in the field for several years. And I realized that everything that we want to do, we need people. We need the support of people to do it. And communication is that moderator that enables us to galvanize the support of people. Now, this is one area, any business that you have or that you want to create in the future must be very careful with. You can't wing communication. Unless you put a lot of effort into it, serious thinking into your communication, your messages, your ideas, your strategy would not meet the mark. Therefore, as individuals, as leaders of businesses, you must carefully plan a communication strategy to support your organizational strategy. And then when we talk about strategy, we're talking about how do you move from where you are to a desired state. The assumption is that there's somewhere you want to get to that is different from where you are. So how do you move to that destination? However you move from where you are to where you're going, consciously and deliberately planned is a strategy. So if you want to execute successfully, you must think about how do you come up with a robust communication strategy for your organization, for your class. If we see MMBA7 as a business, if we want to see MMBA7 as a group of people who are working towards achieving a common goal, then there is need for leadership. And leadership is not what most people think that it is, right? It is not about those who are fluent in the way that they speak, or those who have positions, those who have certain attributes. It has nothing to do with title. I mean, title can help us. Attributes can help us. Resources can help us. I mean, if you look good, you speak well, you have money and things like that, people will definitely follow you. However, it's more about how do you move people? How do you galvanize support so that you can achieve a goal that is common to you and to the people that you lead? So it's more about an organic process of social influence that we must uncover wherever that we are in the group. You don't need a title to lead the team. You don't need a title to lead a team. You need to become influential to help other people to succeed. You have to influence them. And how do you do that without communication? I think that it is not possible. So if we really want to move forward, we must think about effective communication strategies. If you don't have a plan internally to communicate to your people about where you're going, where you are and where you're going, there's every likelihood that, there'll be a lot of resistance. Things will break down. Just like MMBA is a class and they're thinking, you guys are thinking well. I must say you're doing well. You're doing very well. And I like the spirit that I see in the class. That's can-do spirit. You want to succeed. So I'm so excited. I'm thinking about what you guys are going to be in the future. I'm looking into that space, and I'm wondering, what is going to come out from this class. I can't wait. But we need to also support these ideas, properly. So I think that's maybe why I want to go into the business world and take out a few things, a few ideas that we have tested over time. And we agree that every business must leverage these techniques to drive their strategy. Now, let me start with the common communication pitfalls that we must avoid. If you own a business, and we believe that you're going to own, your own businesses, is that not the goal? Is that not the dream? You want to keep working for other people? What is the major idea? Do we want to create jobs, or do we just want to be employed? I'm asking for a friend.
Oh yeah, but that's definitely the goal, sir. Start on businesses. Definitely.
Executives,
Mm.
do you want to be employers of labor? Or are you going through school just to get a job?
No, employers.
We want to be employers of labor.
You want to be, yes, you want to create jobs. So we're thinking about businesses. So in that context, few things that you need to pay attention when you're communicating your ideas, the strategies that you want to implement. Clarity. How do you make those ideas clear? How do you communicate them in a way that people can understand? Lack of clarity, that's the problem that a lot of organizations need to deal with. If you want people to change the way that they're doing things, that communication needs to be clear. Most organizations have confused, inappropriate, delayed, and inconsistent communication. Another thing that is also very important is how you use, what channels of communication that you use. Most people depend on one channel of communication, or most organizations, and that's a big problem. Emails, emails, emails. Maybe memo, you know, everything is so formalized, right? But you want people to support you to drive change. You have to ask yourself, are you communicating appropriately? There are various communication formats that you can use: verbal, visual, written, mobile, online, face-to-face. We shouldn't depend on one. There are some issues that you can actually discuss with your colleague in class. At the gazebo, oh boy, let's just meet and sort this matter out. It doesn't have to be too formal. Or I need this information. Can I reach you on WhatsApp? There are different kinds of ways that we can communicate. But most organizations tend to depend perhaps on one form of communication. I understand that people want to have record and things like that, but it doesn't mean that you cannot keep records. If something is very important, you can discuss it and then follow it up with an email. Another thing is that some people employ this one-size-fits-all approach. People are different. Even within your class, you're not the same. There's gender differences, you have all kinds of differences, age, it's not the same, background is not the same, level of exposure is not the same, competence is not the same, proficiency is not the same. You belong to different religions, also all kinds of things differ. So when you want to communicate your strategy, you have to think about the audience and how to tailor that communication in a way that everyone that is important, every important stakeholder understands the message. Another thing that is also very important to avoid is this failing to take advantage of face-to-face communication, face-to-face meetings and communication. This is the richest form of communication. And strategic communication is very significant. Sometimes we need to convince people. We also need to read their own communication. Right now, and I can't tell what most of you are saying or what most of you are saying to me because I'm not seeing you. Because your cameras are off, I may not be able to tell who is paying attention and who is not. But if I'm seeing you face to face, I can tell who is pressing the phone, who is with me and all of that. I can tell when someone is frowning, I can tell when they are smiling, I can tell when they're excited. So we read body language, we read the tone, body tones and all kinds of things. If we are able to use different, approaches to communication, especially face-to-face. Another pitfall is this idea of sending instruction from top to down. Ideas can come from anywhere within the organization. So we should be able to communicate in different ways, top down, down up, across. When it comes like instructions, people respond to them in that same way. But when it comes down like a conversation, everybody feels that they have a chance to contribute to refining the strategy, to implementing it better. I mean, in my position, I've been managing director, of several organizations, and I got used to when you give an instruction, everybody is noted for action. Noted for action does not mean that they're going to act on anything. It does not mean anything. In fact, it may mean that they're not even interested. Well, because it comes down as an instruction, what do you expect? They will say noted for action. But if I involve them in the communication or in this conversation, perhaps they will tell me what they really think is the best approach to solving the problem. Are you with me so far, guys?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So you have strategies, you want to lead people to achieve them for your business. I mean, even for your education career, for your career that you have, for your journey here at the LBS. Are you providing context to your communication? Now you're talking to your colleagues. Do you assume that everyone has complete understanding of the ideas of this, these noble ideas that you have? Let's come together. Let's think. Let's talk entrepreneurship. Let's talk investment, real estate. If you don't provide context to it, the necessary context, we have the tendency to interpret it in different ways. So it is important to break your communication down when you want people to get involved. Understand that, they are likely going to see things differently. So provide a context that enables them to ask questions, to clarify their understanding, and therefore to give you the necessary support. Another thing that we should also avoid when we are dealing with strategic communication is jargons and technicalities. Jargons and technicalities. The best kind of communication should be simple and concise. Break it down. What is the language? Let's take your class. As a business, what is the language that you have in your class? Over time, you have spent some time. Over time, you notice that a language must have developed. That is the language that you need to use when you are communicating strategy. Every organization will also have its own language. Break it down to that lowest common, level where everyone can understand. Unless, of course, you're talking to a very specialized audience. Technicalities and jargons do not really help. They can easily be misunderstood. Also important is how we pass information across. The expectations that we have. People need time to process information. Why should I change the way that I behave? Why should I take this step with you? Why should I make more commitments? Maybe for you, it's very clear. The vision is so clear. You're a vision bearer, so it's very clear where you're going. You're so pregnant with vision, you can't wait to give birth, right? So you expect everybody to be in the same space with you to understand that there's an urgency to the matter. But hey, we're all not the same. So factor that into your communication strategy. that there may be need for time for people to process the implications of the change that you want to introduce, the implications of moving in a new direction. Don't assume that everybody can understand it or that we can all reason at the same pace and time in terms of moving in the same direction. Another thing that is also important, in strategic communication is delivering messages in a coherent way. Sometimes we see that business leaders are not consistent in the way they deliver information. The strategy information should be consistent, regular, and over time, they should reinforce each other. If you really want me to come in and take a session with you, and you call me once and tell me about it, and I don't hear from you again until maybe today, there's every chance that I won't even remember. Although I've said, yes, I'm going to do it, I would like to do it. But if the communication is not regular, consistent, like what Sakaribo did, I may forget. He called me today, reminded me a few minutes ago. So that consistency and, over time has kept this meeting at the top of my mind. It's the same with everything that we want to achieve. I hope you're still with me, guys.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Yes, sir. We are with you, sir. Thank you.
All right. Also important is the deliverable. We spend effort and money on communication, but if you cannot manage the efforts, if you cannot measure the results of your communication, it's also possible that you cannot manage it. We said that what you cannot measure, you cannot manage. So you should be able to set goals, establish metrics for measuring your communication deliverables. When it comes to strategy, how do you ensure that you're measuring your efforts appropriately and that the results that you're getting are firm in terms of return or a considerable return for your investment? Sometimes this can be complex, because in certain organizations, let me use the oil and gas sector, for example. People who work with, I do some PR jobs over time, and I know that, it can become very difficult for organizations to justify the PR spend. Some people will begin to ask questions like, what have we been able to achieve with all the money that we spend on CSR and all these projects? We're just guzzling. This unit is spending money, they're not generating money. So whenever there's a project that comes up, you have to convince everybody to understand why that money has to be spent on communication, on advertising, on public relations, on fostering relationships, communicating appropriately. So we always go through that process. And I tell business leaders that, yes, we must establish metrics. Because most people don't understand the value of social license to operate. If you are not communicating appropriately or effectively, the relationship with stakeholders break down. And that is when all kinds of challenges will start, even with your employees. As major stakeholders in your business, challenges will start from there. Regulators will step into your business. And the costs, the burden of the business on that business will become so high that sometimes it destroys all other value or some other value that you may be pursuing that you think are more significant. So there must be a way that you can measure what you are getting from communication. In other words, if you're operating in a volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous business environment like Nigeria, your role as a business leader is to communicate in a way that you can turn volatility around by providing vision. Uncertainty can be turned into understanding. You want to deal with problems around complexity, you provide better clarity in terms of your communication. And if you want to combat ambiguity in the business space, you increase agility. Executives. Are you with me so far?
Yes, sir. I'm with
Yes,
you, sir.
sir.
Mm.
I'm with you.
Okay. So let me go into a few things that I believe that will help us as business leaders, as those that are also going to lead MMBA7 to the promised land. So let me talk about your communication strategy and how you drive success of your strategy. First, you should be the one enrolling, whoever is going to lead, and I'm not talking about anyone in particular, but if you have the interest in leading others, we don't need a title. In fact, every one of us should be leading. Be the one enrolling people. Remember these 4 A's. Your communication should help people understand the destination. You should make the journey and the destination very attractive with your communication. Help members of your class see the future they want to be part of. Help them find purpose and the meaning for themselves in everything that you're doing. You request their commitment so they can all work together. I mean, the same things you can apply to your business, your employees. For example, you also need to enroll and enable. How do you enable? Help them see possibilities for their contribution. Some people may have self-limiting beliefs. I cannot do it. I'm not the type that can understand maths or statistics or figures. You challenge self-limiting beliefs. That's the way that you need to communicate. Oh yes, you can do it too. I didn't know how to do it before, but I learned how to do it. We can help you. Just try it. Set targets with them, stretch this target. That's how you enable them. You also need to energize with your communication by building and sustaining energy. The way that you communicate, you should come with positive vibes. Yes, this is possible. Every day, challenge them. Every day. It's also important to celebrate success. Don't wait until you get to the destination to start celebrating. Celebrate the journey. Start from low-hanging fruits. What can you win? The short wins, the easy wins. Start from there. So they begin to celebrate, give people recognition for the contributions that they are making. Also important is exemplifying, demonstrating the behaviors that you want others, you want to see in others. Be the one that exemplifies the behavior. If you want everybody to come on time, you have class, maybe a case preparation meeting in your group, and you want everybody to be there on time, be the first person to join. Are you with me, guys?
Yes, sir.
Remember these 4 P's as well. Remember these 4 P's as well. Purpose. Why? Explain the purpose behind the strategy. What kind of outcome is possible and why are you moving in this direction? If it is a business, explain to your employees why. Then paint a picture of how the outcome will look like, how it's going to feel like, what it's going to sound like. Paint a picture that is interesting, that is compelling, that they can go home and think about. With your communication, outline the plan. Show the steps. What should people do? Roll out the plan. How long would it take? What are the different phases to achieving the goal? Where do you want to start from? So you need a plan. Another important thing is to communicate what they need to do within the plan. What is their own role? For every person who is part of this, journey with you, what do they need to do? What is their part in it? How do they relate to each other? I think that communication is the most critical thing for strategy execution. It's also important for us to realize that the level of change that we can achieve depends on our approach to communication. If you want people to be aware of where you're going, it is enough to tell them. Tell them about the new ideas. Tell them about the things that you want to achieve. They will be aware. You can use memos. You can send, mails, emails, and things like that. Tell them where the organization is going. Tell members of the class what you want to achieve with all of these sessions. But if you want them to understand it and even take action, you have to sell the idea to them. Telling them is not enough. You want their support, you have to sell it. But if you want acceptance and alignment, your communication approach must change to consultation. If you want people in your business space, if you're a business leader and you want your people to take ownership and to be completely engaged, you must join them in curating your strategy. Let them be part of that decision making. Let them feel like it's also their idea and not just helping you to achieve a vision, but it's something that they were part of, that they can take and run with, because it also serves their own purpose. What we see, especially in the business space, is that a lot of people use the wrong approaches to communication. However, the level of involvement and change that you can achieve depends on your approach. So like I said earlier, if it's awareness that you need to create, memos, letters are good enough. But if you want understanding and action, you have to change your approach. The channel needs to change. If you want acceptance and alignment, you can't use the same channel if what you're trying to foster is understanding and action. If you want acceptance, people to accept and to align, you have to change the approach. And again, if you want ownership and engagement, the approach needs to change. The level of involvement will change. What we know is that information and involvement, when you provide information and involvement, and you involve people, you build the commitment to change, to a successful strategy execution. So if the goal is significant, You need to increase the level of commitment and involvement. So awareness, understanding may not require so much of involvement and commitment. Therefore, the way that you inform or communicate may not necessarily be as intense as when you want commitment, internalization, ownership, alignment, and all that. I want to say that, over time, when we start to implement the strategy, whatever it is, the confidence level will increase if we're communicating appropriately. Attitudes, feelings will change over time. If our communication is effective, consistent, regular. When they start initially to do things differently, you're pushing for a change in direction. You want to move from where you are to a new direction. Some people will be excited. Oh, it's a fantastic idea. Oh, let's do it. But when they start and they experience difficulties along the path, they may get overwhelmed. The confidence level will drop. If you remain consistent with your communication, you provide information, you continue to involve them in your decision-making process, they may want to try it again. Okay, yes, we can, now that we have more information about this, we can handle it. They start again, they get into trouble or difficulties, the confidence level may drop. But over time, you see, it gets better, especially if your commitment to communication is very clear. Why should I change my behavior? Why should I do things differently? Why should I follow you in this new direction? You need to tell me if you're a business leader. You need to tell me if you want to influence me. If you don't tell me why, if I'm not convinced, if that communication is not coming directly from you to me, there's every chance that the communication the reason may be taken up by gossip, all kinds of interpretations. The grapevine may take over. So for a typical organization, the leader of an organization should be consistent in providing at least 65% of the reasons, the communication, the information of why people should change the way that they're doing things. You can rely on your systems and your processes for 25% of that communication. And maybe your media, your intranet, and all those things, you provide 10%, may help you to provide 10%. But anything that is not provided will go to the grapevine. People will start all kinds of gossip. And I want you to understand that behaviors are symptomatic. Beliefs determine attitudes. Attitudes are now, what affects behaviors. So the real power in leading people in every organization, in your organization, even in MMBA7, is understanding influence, the power of influence. I want to show you a small video. Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, we are, sir.
All right.
When he was just 5 years old, Albert Einstein's uncle showed him a compass, and it captivated the boy's attention. because no matter what way the compass was turned, the needle moved on its axis in almost a magical way. Later in life, Einstein would say that was the moment when he realized that something hidden had to be behind all things. The great physicist would spend his life investigating and pursuing the relationship between the visible and the invisible, things like matter and energy. At the end of the 20th century, Time magazine printed an issue in which they identified what they believed was the most influential person of the 20th century. They voted in Albert Einstein, the German-born Jewish physicist with the signature tousled hair, easily recognizable anywhere in the world. Einstein was not a leader in industry. He wasn't the leader of a movement. He didn't lead any organization. But his insight into the hidden side of things opened the world to elemental realities. Out of it came things like nuclear medicine, nuclear power plants, and nuclear bombs. Influence is an understatement. Time magazine's annual list of the most influential people in the world always includes heads of state, scientists, artists, leaders of industry, religious leaders, and they all have this in common. There is some idea or ideal that underlies their influence. That's where the power lies. Influencers are people who have a grasp of what lies under the surface of things, and those things become the driving force of change in the world. Influence is power, awesome power. The meaning of influence is something powerful and yet hidden that flows into us and exerts some kind of change. In fact, you see the word fluent in influence. The idea is that all of us are being influenced by other people all the time, and we in turn get to turn around and be influential in other people's lives, hopefully to some constructive end. In a Christian sense, influence is that hidden force that is exerted by the Spirit of God, invisible and yet life-changing. As we carry out a calling of influence, what we are doing is involving ourselves at the core of people's lives, that place where their opinions and biases are formed, where thoughts germinate, where ideas are shaped, where ideals are decided upon. Influence is a spiritual matter because it takes place at the core of human nature. And influence is that form of leadership that has the best chance for enduring effects. Listen, given the state of the world today, there is no question but that we need many positive influences in every arena of society, in business, in education, in the church, in family. We need not just a few leaders, we need armies of influencers, multitudes of them. Albert Einstein was able to be very influential by uncovering the hidden truths behind the physical world, things that have explosive power. But just imagine what will happen if God's people rise up and influence others with the deep things of God, like His wisdom and His power and His truth.
All right. Did you get that?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So, what am I saying here? We want many influencers. MMBA7. We want you to go out there and really change the world, to become change makers. But you have to be strategic about it, and you also need to be able to communicate that, to connect to people, to make them understand where you're going. You have to pay attention to what lies beneath the surface of things. What lies beneath the surface of things? Because like Einstein found out, the things that are hidden controls the things that are seen. the things that are hidden controls the things that are seen. So if you can communicate in a way that you involve yourself at the core, that core that he was talking about, of people's lives, where the ideas formed, where ideals germinate, you have done your work. When people believe the vision, the mission, and where you're going, you don't need to micromanage them. They will do those things on their own. But we need to communicate that. We need to learn how to communicate in a way that we can make people believe. Are you with me, guys?
Yes,
Yes.
sir.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Yes,
So when we talk about change, when we talk about strategy, when we
Yes,
talk
sir.
about executing strategy, I want to show you a typical example of strategic communication, right? Are you with me up to this point?
Yes,
Yes,
we are.
sir.
yes,
Let me show
Yes,
you.
sir.
Let me show you. Just listen.
He started his business with
1 second.
$20,000 that his wife and his friend helped him raise. He's the first mainline China entrepreneur to be featured on the cover of Forbes magazine. He's the richest man in China and the 18th richest man in the world with an estimated fortune of $29.7 billion. He's Jack Ma, founder of Alibaba.com, and here are his 10 rules for success.
When I graduate from universities, and before I, for 3 years I tried to fill in the universities. So I applied jobs for 30 times, got rejected. I went for a police, they said, no, you're not good. I went to even the KFC. When KFC came to China, come to my city, 24 people went for the job. 23 people were accepted. I was the only one guy. And we went for police. 5 people, 4 of them accepted. I was the only guy that did not receive it. So to me, being turned down, rejected. Oh, by the way, I told you that I applied for Harvard for 10 times, rejected. I know I'll be rejected. I just don't want to say that.
Yeah, sorry now. 10 times you wrote them and said, I'd like to come to Harvard.
Yeah. And then I told myself, someday I should go teach there, baby. We have a secret code for Alibaba success. Just like Open Sesame is the secret code for Alibaba, the secret code for everybody is keep your dream alive because it might come true someday. This is what the secret code is.
What do you think your core competence is?
Our code is culture. It's not the technology. I think technology is a tool. The core competence of our companies, we have 20,000. We grow from 18 people to now 20,000 young people. And we focus a lot on the value and the mission and making sure the culture, everybody work for helping others instead of just making money. People don't like it. So many people I talked to at that time for Alipay, they say, this is the stupidest idea you have ever got. But I say, I don't know the stupid or clever, as long as people use it. Now we have 800 million people using this Alipay. I learned a lot of things from movies. I learned how to make a speech from the movie called Bodyguard, Whitney Houston. When she sings the songs, I look at her, wow, that's the way that you make a speech, because I never know how to make speech. Because I'm not an actor. But when I saw the movie, I say, wow, if you sing from your heart, if you sing naturally, if you're yourself. So I realized, and I learned a lot from the movies, even learned from the Godfathers. I learned, my favorite movie is Forrest Gump, These are the things I learned so much. And we discuss about the muse, the inspirations we got from movies.
What kinds of business ideas have you said no to?
I'm saying no to a lot of ideas because as a CEO, I have to say no to opportunities. Because if I say yes, I probably get 5,000 opportunities every day. But
whether yes or no, everything based on the mission that we're helping doing business easier. If it's on that, we will consider. If somebody come and say, we will, have this deal, will make a lot of money, I'm not interested.
Why did you call it Alibaba?
Alibaba? Well, when I started, I think internet is global. We should have a global name. And a name that, interesting, like at that time, the best name is Yahoo. Right, so I've been thinking for many days, suddenly thinking Alibaba is a good name. So I happened to be in San Francisco that day. And I did have a lunch, and the waitress came. I asked her, do you know about Alibaba? She said, yes. I said, what is Alibaba? She said, Open Sesame. Good. So I went on the street, asked about 10, 20 people. They all know about Alibaba, 40 Thieves, and Open Sesame. And I think this is a good name. And start with A. Whatever you talk about, Alibaba is always top. We believe the co-company different from the Wall Street. We believe customer number 1, employee number 2, shareholder number 3.
Customer 1, employee 2, shareholder
number
3.
3. Yeah, again, this is my religion. It's the customer that pay us the money. It's the employees that drive the innovation. It's the shareholder, and the shareholder always say, I remember the day before we IPO, and a lot of people say, Jack, can I give us the shares? We were long-term shareholders. But when the crisis came, these guys ran as soon as,
they ran away.
They ran away. My people stayed, customers stayed. And I want to tell the young people, when most people complain, where the opportunity is. People start to complain. Some people complain. People start to change themselves, change others. Where the opportunity is where the complaints are. Where the trouble, where is the opportunity. And I always believe that. 而今天，我想把大家请过来，跟大家共同探讨以后至少5年、10年我们要做的事情。那么阿里巴巴我们将做成怎么样？我想，从黄页的时候我就提过，黄页所要瞄准的对象不是国内战略，而是国际战略。我们所有的竞争对手不在于中国，而在于美国的硅谷。如果说第一，我们把阿里巴巴定位，就把它作为国际战略，我们不要把它定位是国内战略。第二个呢，我想就是我们要学会硅谷人的一种拼劲。如果说我们是早上8点钟下班，8点钟上班，5点钟下班，这个不是搞高科技。这个绝对不是我们阿里巴巴能成功。如果是我们有这种精神，反正我上班了，8点钟上班，5点钟下班了 ，OK， 赶紧去其他地方。人家美国人强就强他的硬件，强就强他的系统建设，这方面确实比你到。但是玩信息玩软的，中国人的脑袋绝不比人差。我们在座的所有的人的脑袋绝不比任何人差。这就是我们敢跟美国人斗的劲。我们绝对敢斗。如果我们是好的 team， 好的团队，我们自己知道我们想做什么，我们想干些什么的时候，我相信我们是可以以一当数。我们能够赢政府机构，我们能够赢其他很多的民营企业、大的这种企业的时候，凭的是我们的精神、我们的意识、我们的创新概念，以及我们这种拼劲才能去斗。否则的话，跟他们有什么区别呢？谁都知道，Internet是个泡沫。我刚才讲的危机感就是Internet的泡沫现在越来，什么时候破？然后呢，把股票掉了，eBay股票会涨。那么有一天eBay股票涨了以后，可能阿里巴巴社区的股票涨，所以不要担心。我觉得 Internet 这个梦不会破，这个泡沫不会破。我们为后面的3、5年所付出的代价是非常惨重的。只有这样的惨重的代价，才会赢得我们未来的取得的成功。那么目标是2002年。
Thank you guys for watching. The question of the day for you is, I want to know what kind of rejection you've had to overcome in your life and in your business. If you've had to overcome a lot of rejection, you have a special story to share, I'd love to hear from you. If you want to leave a comment below. I made this video on Jack Ma because Jeff Liang asked me to. So if there's a famous entrepreneur that you want me to profile, leave a comment, let me know what you think, and I'll see what I can do. And of course, if you like this video and you want to see more, don't forget to subscribe to the newsletter and the channel. Thank you for watching. Continue to believe, have an amazing day, and I hope you'll start your day again with me tomorrow with another inspirational video.
Okay. Did you guys get that?
Yes, we did, sir.
Got you.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So this is I wanted to pay attention to how he communicated his vision, his strategy to them in 1999. 3 years before 2002, when Alibaba, IPO'd, right? I think that is amazing the way that he was able to combine all those things that we're talking about. The 4 E's, the 4 P's. He was able to speak to all of them. I also want you to note that they asked him about his core competence. Where's the strength of his organization? And he told them his culture. The culture, the understanding of the mission, the vision, the mission, and the values. How do people understand that without communication? So if you really want to drive your strategy, it's always about, at the LBS, we know that our competitive advantage is in our culture. It's the culture that drives everything else. So if you're going to be able to move people to the next level in your organization, even when you live here, it's about your communication, your culture. What are you communicating? Right? People will pay attention to a lot of things, but they will focus on the first 3. What your communication tells them about your compensation strategies, your rewards, your controls, how you manage critical incidents, including conflicts, right? And how you will model the behaviors that you want to see. You cannot be stealing and telling people in your organization not to. They will. If you're lying and they know that you're lying to your stakeholders, they will also lie to you. I mean, they will even lie to you if you're not lying. So imagine when you have given them the license to. So coaching people, role modeling, these are the things that other things matter, don't get me wrong. But why would they want to do things differently? This brings me, as I conclude this conversation, to the role of culture. The role of culture, how you behave, your behaviors. That is what determines the success of your strategy. Whatever it is that you want to achieve, you must ask yourself if your culture, your behaviors, your attitudes, your vision, your everyday mission, your values are in sync with your strategy. According to Peter Drucker, he said the culture that you have will eat your strategy for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Culture will eat your growth, eat your change, eat innovation, and everything up. So if you don't focus on your critical behaviors, your attitudes, and you come up with fantastic strategies, I don't know how it's going to happen. You may have all the nice vision and mission statements, but your culture is important. So as a group, MMBA7, you should have a culture, a winning culture, an innovative culture. If you create organizations when you live here, focus also on your culture. I'm not saying that strategy is not important, but if you are familiar with McKinsey's 7S model, what they are saying here is that strategy is not enough for every organization that really wants to achieve something great. Yes, you must have strategy, but if that strategy is not in sync or is not aligning with your structure, the strategy will fail. Again, the strategy has to also align with your systems, your processes. So let's say that you all want to win as a team, as a group. And you have a strategy on how you're going to pass your exams. What is the structure that you're setting up for yourselves as a team to enable you to do that? What are your processes? What are your processes? You need to create processes that will run that structure. Again, do you have complementary skills? Are you harnessing complementary skills? Do you have the requisite people within your group that can, deliver the goods? Are they motivated? Are they interested? Then finally, your style, the leadership style that you have adopted as a team. Using MMBA7 as an example, what is your style? Who is leading others? Is that style in alignment with your shared values? Because when you look at this 7S model, you will notice that at the center, at the core of all the elements is shared values, your culture, your everyday behaviors. Those are the things that matter. A lot of people want to change culture so that strategy can succeed. Remember, culture is the prism through which we also communicate. We make meaning. Meaning can only happen within the context of culture. But if you want to change your culture, you want, a high performance culture. You want a culture that delivers your strategy. Are you communicating effectively? You should. You should. But for John Cotter, only 10% of people who want to change culture eventually are able to do so. 70% of those that want to implement strategies, or 70% of the strategies that people want to implement fail. All changes that we propose in organizations do not succeed. Perhaps only 30% of them do. Why? The major question is why? Why? Why do these ideas never come to friction? Nigeria is a basic example, is a very clear example. We have fantastic laws, great policies. Every administration comes up with new ideas. But implementation is the problem. Execution is the problem. Why do changes fail? Why? Because the door to change only opens from within. It opens from inside. We need to understand that basic assumption from Albert Einstein. The mind, how the mind works. You want to control the way that people behave. You have to change their belief system with your communication. Because if you change beliefs, you change attitudes, you change behaviors. So culture eventually changes. It's not every leader that can change culture. Transactional leaders do not change culture. To change culture, you must be transformative. I hope that this is making sense to us. Never, never mistake or forget the power of your influence. You can achieve a lot out there in that space. You can claim the space, you can conquer that space if you are determined to do so. Alibaba was rejected. Jack Ma said he was rejected everywhere that he went. He shared a lot of interesting nuggets, but he was determined. And so when people say it is not possible, he doesn't give up. And I also want you to go out with that same spirit to make your businesses succeed, to make your class succeed, and to be that influence that people want to be around, to have that kind of influence on people. Never mistake the power of your influence. I want to show you this. I hope you can say
What kind of influence do you want to have? What kind of effect do you want to have on other people? Never mistake the power of influence.
Executives.
Mm.
Executives. Executives.
Surely you the person for me, oh. I know nobody matter more. Nobody matter. Hey. Nobody matter. It be like I don't win a lotto. I know if you cool it down, oh. Baby girl, I'm a whiskey away. Whiskey away on holiday. Holiday to Mozambique. Follow me go to Mozambique. Baby girl, are you on your way? She made her bring helicopter. Oh, then na. Make it up like I do overdo. But we go trouble their timeline. Give them a go out. Trouble their megabyte. Megabyte, what Lord I do. Trouble their timeline. Give them a go out. Trouble their megabyte. Megabyte. Baby girl, oh, you look at me. And I want to look at you. We be tight in a wine. We be tight in a wine. Baby girl, oh, you look at me. And I want to look at you. We be tight in a wine. We be tight in a wine. Fly boy. Oh, yeah, point and take. All on. My whole baby.
I need to stop this. Thank you. Thank you. I think I've come to the end of the presentation. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, sir.
Wow. That was amazing. Thank you so much, sir. That was genuinely an amazing session. I feel like I can go ahead and just start trying to be a communications professional in like wherever I am, just because I have listened to this. So much wisdom. So much wisdom. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. This was really detailed. It was thorough. And we are very grateful for your time. Okay, so herein lies our question and answer segment. Please, if you have any questions for Dr. Silk, kindly put in the comment section or maybe raise your hand so that we can have you ask your question and we can have Doc take the question. I'm sure that there are questions because all of this information, we need to make a lot of sense of it, right? Such that we can apply it to our daily lives. So I'm genuinely looking forward to the question and answer session. Then joining, okay, not yet. But while we're waiting for other questions, if it's okay for me to be a little bit selfish and ask my questions, so that you can maybe start by taking that whilst to wait for other people to send in their questions. Okay, so during your presentation, you had sort of like made mention of using mostly top-down communication. And I mean, we know that's sort of like how our regular Nigerian working corporate systems are structured, such that the person at the top or the elder gives the information and you just action, right? And you have said in your presentation that usually as much as possible, it should become more of a two-way thing, whereas even employees that are on the door share their thoughts and feedback, especially in the Nigerian culture. And I'm laying emphasis on that because, we know the kiss ass, for lack of a better word, the kiss ass culture, where you either don't talk or you say what you know that Oga wants to hear, right? Or what Oga will agree to, right? And how that has sort of like shaped a lot of corporate organizations as we know it. So I guess my question therein lies, how as employees, I guess it might be two-way, as employees, how can we navigate this system such that we're able to better communicate? Because half the time it's like the people at the top, they don't want to, like, they give their instructions and they expect you to just do. And the times where we have a lot of situations whereby once you start to give the truth as a feedback of the truth as you know it, or so in my opinion, I don't think this will work, because it starts to become a problem, right? You start to become that troublesome employee or the rude employee, or you're the one that can talk back, or you're the one with an attitude. So I guess that's on the part of the employee. How can we do better, or how can we better manage that system? And then for employers, like we had Alibaba say, Jack, he went on to say he turns down about 5,000 ideas like every other day, right? And same goes for employers of labor or team leads or managers, because you have a lot of people or a number of people in your team, and everybody has bright ideas. Everybody has one great idea that they want to push to you, one better way to do everything. So I guess, even as employers or as team leads or managers, how can we better sift through the noise, right? And smoothing the communication process such that even when I'm turning you down, it doesn't demoralize, because I think there is always a thin line between. I hope you sort of like understand my question, so I don't keep going.
Yes. Okay. Let me start from the second one. Yeah. So what he also said, if you listen to Jack Ma, is that any idea that does not support the business mission, right, and vision, is not likely going to accept. So does that idea help to make the job faster, easier? Does it improve process? Does it improve products? Does it improve the atmosphere, of work? Does it improve people? So these 4 areas are important. So you must ask yourself, when these ideas come, how they help you to do what you're doing better. So if you have something like that, a framework that helps you to sieve those ideas, you will know the ones that are genuinely gonna help. But also important is how you must thank anyone who is giving you ideas, right? And politely also decline some. That's where diplomacy comes in, really. Otherwise, there'll be confusion. So if you have a business and everybody's telling you different things, you should be able to have a framework that helps you to determine what is right, what you can work with, and also how to communicate that to others so that they keep coming up with those ideas anyway. Sometimes the ones that you think may not be the best idea may actually turn out to be the best. In the media organization, for example, that I've been part of, what we use is what we call the mud against the wall. Nobody knows the story that is going to trend. So people just keep throwing stories, right? And so you may think that I've worked on this, I have the best ideas, but hey, maybe people are not interested in that content. And the one that you thought wouldn't make, will not end up becoming very important. So again, it's also, I think it's necessary to open up our minds to accepting that these ideas could come in different ways and may require flexibility on our own part in terms of how we save and manage them over time. Right? Now, if you're an employee and you report to a boss, I think it's actually easier, right, to communicate to your boss. So some of the things that we teach, younger business executives, how you manage your boss. When you identify the areas that, your boss maybe has weakness in, or you identify gaps that you can fill, when you're able to identify the deliverables of the boss and you pay attention to those deliverables and you begin to make contribution towards, helping the boss achieve those objectives that he or she may have set, you are communicating appropriately. You are entrenching yourself, to a space where the boss begins to need you. Some people need to pay attention to the kind of person that you work with. How do they prefer to get information? I don't know if I talked to you about that in class. We listen in different, we have different approaches to listening. We have different styles. You may work with a boss who wants a lot of detail. So if you're able to study your boss, then your communication will provide or should provide those necessary details. But if you work with someone who would rather get to the meat of the matter, so you need to present the facts first. And most people don't have a lot of time, but we are different. There are some individuals, they want to know why, the rationale. So every time that you communicate, you need to back up every claim with evidence. So it's just being dynamic in the way that you approach different people at work. And I'm not just talking about your boss, you should also be able to communicate better with your colleagues, with your peers. Because when we communicate effectively, what we are saying to the people around us is that we are actually available to support them. And that's all that really matters to a lot of people, because they are so self-centered that they're always thinking about themselves. So most of the time, what they are looking out for is their own benefits. So if you work with a boss, you work with your colleagues, just dynamizing your approach to communication, understanding that every audience is different. Every person is different. You can't use the same approach for everyone. For example, there was an article that I wrote recently, and I was challenging the INEC in that article to interrogate the way they communicate voter education. We want to change the voting process, but how are we communicating voter education? We're still using the same thing. We're broadcasting canned messages to everyone. Young people, old people, we're saying the same thing to all of them. But we need to segment that audience. For younger people, you need to have a different approach, what we call edutainment, right? You add entertainment to that education. That is how they're going to get that message clearer. You may not use that approach for older people who may think that that's a bit too noisy. What I'm trying to say is that we all differ, and our approach to communication should not be the same for everyone. Okay. I don't know if I addressed some of those concerns or questions. Do I have? Yes, I also found out that it's not just MMBA7 that is here. We have other people who are here. I apologize if I've been talking about MMBA7 alone. Please forgive me. I hope you won't beat other people here, won't beat me.
I'm sure we understand for the most part. I'm sure we understand. Okay, so we have more questions in the chat box. We have one from Precious saying, What advice do you have for someone who struggles to communicate big ideas in a simple, relatable, in a simple way, relatable to different audiences?
This is actually
Hello,
the,
sir.
yeah, but this is actually the easiest part. If you have a big idea and you want to break it down to simple, concise communication, it is about finding the lowest, what we call the LCM back in those days, the lowest common multiple. You know, we tend to work too hard on impressing people with language, with jargons, with all kinds of things. But most importantly is, how does it make sense to them? Let me give you an example. If you say a governor looted 800 billion, and you're communicating that as maybe you have a blog, that's a very significant piece of information. You want citizens to understand that somebody who doesn't have 2 million in his account has never had up to 1 million or 2 million all his life, would never understand what 800 billion means. It's not everybody that can begin to imagine but if you break it down, if you say this 800 million can build 12 secondary schools, can feed 10,000 people over a period of 10 years, and they will eat morning, afternoon, night, can, give cars. So it becomes something that they can relate to. So the idea is to find ways to break it down to the lowest level where everyone can connect, can relate to. And from there, if we make it relatable, it becomes a lot easier for people to understand and to give us the necessary support. I think another question is here. It's quite difficult for organizations to change their culture.
How easy will it be for an individual to change to match the organizational culture when the change is not going to be easy, especially when you're just joining the organization as a new employee?
No. As a new employee, it's difficult for you to change culture. It's not even leaders. Even a lot of senior organizational executives cannot change culture. Only leaders can change culture. Culture changes everything. Culture changes everything. Culture resists change because it's the way of life. People, their understanding of things. It's not easy to change that mindset. You need to prepare yourself. That is why we think that even in the secondary school, we should be teaching leadership. People need to understand the basic principles, how to lead other people. It's not every leader that can change culture. You see what happened in Nigeria. There are some people who we thought were saints of some sort, right? Yeah, I remember back in those days, some of you may not remember, there was this man that we all admired. I think I was in the uni at that time. He used to wear khaki, and they made him the chairman of People's Bank. I don't want to mention anybody's name. Yeah. And a few months down the line, he ditched the khaki and started wearing awada. The culture changed him. A lot of people come back from abroad and they say, we want to change the way that things happen in Nigeria. They get an opportunity in government and they become even worse than the people that they were criticizing. So it takes a lot to change culture, but we can change culture if we learn how to lead. And I think that we should all learn that. What if the culture that the organization is something you have seen to be a hindrance to their success. How best can one communicate this need for change so you don't get misunderstood? Okay, so yes, that's exactly what I was also trying to say earlier. That how you communicate is very important. You know, pay attention to the approach. Are you using the right channel? Are you using the right tools? Are you all those common pitfalls that I talked about, right? Those are the things to avoid. Are you providing context, right? Are you being consistent and regular in your approach? So just look at those common pitfalls and avoid them. Communication is the most important skill. But we take it for granted anyway, because I mean, we communicate naturally. But we constantly have to keep improving how we communicate. It's an area that we should never take, anymore for granted. Just because we speak fluently does not mean that we're making sense. It also does not mean that people understand what we're saying, but that that they are interested in supporting us. So yes, we need to improve communication skills, and so a lot of things can be done. We need to improve reading, improve questioning, improve listening, because it's not just about saying something; it's also about what you're not saying. What you're not saying. So improving both verbal and non-verbal communication cues will help us. What is the difference between miscommunication and fake news? Well, fake news is a type of miscommunication, right? So we talked about miscommunication, discommunication, and malcommunication, right? Sometimes miscommunication can be an error. Somebody did not have the intention to deceive. That can be miscommunication. But fake news is discommunication, because there's an intention to be mischievous. All right. Yes, I'm on LinkedIn. Yes. How did I go about pursuing a career in this field? Which field? You mean education, or, Dennis was asking, I don't know if you're talking about.
You would assume maybe in communication.
You mean in communication? Yeah, communication. Okay, in communication. Yes, I started a master's program, at a point I was interested in making video-based advertisements, right? So that was what pushed me more into communication and public relations. So when I got interested, because I was doing some things in that area, and I wanted to improve my understanding and my competence in that area. And so I got into communication a bit deeper from public relations. And over time, I started to teach communication at the School of Media and Communication. And I've done quite a lot of research in the field. So I could say that, well, it's not something that I planned for myself, but it seemed like it beckoned me to come. And I began to realize that, in fact, everything depends on it. And the moment I came to that understanding, I began to take it even more seriously. Okay. So I think that's the end of the questions, guys. What would you call those kinds of headlines that are half truth or half? They are inflammatory and mischievous discommunication. half truth, half lies is a lie. There's also malcommunication, right? Malcommunication is like, yes, using things that are true, but using that information in a way to, maybe hurt other people and maybe create problems or mischief. That's malcommunication. So it's different also. But yes, all of them are areas of concern for us in the communication space, and we really want to make progress there going forward. All right, guys, I think that the questions are all, that's the end of the questions. And if there's nothing else, can we call it a day?
Okay, so we would have to carry bar sort of like round up the session. Once more, thank you very much for your time, sir. Would have to carry continue from here.
Okay.
So thank you so much, Dr. Silk, okay, for having this wonderful session with us, basically. And I know for majority of us, and including me, you are one of our favorite lecturer, one of the lecturers that we actually love listening to. And for this session has actually increased our understanding when it comes to communications as well. So we would say thank you for accepting the call to be here and for impacting the knowledge that you have impacted, not just to us, but to every other person that has showed up for this event. So thank you so much, sir. And then also thank you so much to all of the speakers. So today is day 5, and we have had day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, and it's been an amazing one. So from Dima to Efe to Jago to Wale to Niranti to John to Zainab to Wale. Okay, thank you so much for having to do all of this. And to all of our wonderful attendees. Okay, we noticed that when we were checking the registration, MMBA7 just made up of 20% of the general attendees that we actually had.
Really?
Yes. We had also a lot of people coming from other MMBA classes, and then also some people coming in from staffs of LBS as well, showing up for this. So thank you so much for responding to our call and coming down here. And we really hope that you've gotten knowledge. Okay. And if you want to check out the recording, all the recordings for all of the session are live. Okay. This recording will be live before the close of today. Okay. So you could just go on YouTube and type LBS MMBA7, and you'll be able to see all of the recordings for the past 4 days that we have had. Then also, if you're considering doing an MBA, you've gotten knowledge and you've seen the level of knowledge there. This is just a tip of the iceberg that you can actually get by doing an MBA with one of the, it's not one of the best, it's the best business school in the region. Okay, so if you're considering doing an MBA, consider, don't look no further. Okay, come to LBS and trust me, you would love it. You would so much love the idea, so much. So thank you so much, everybody. And Dr. Silk, do you want to say a final word to just majorly just close us?
It's nice to be here, and I look forward to seeing you guys, in the industry, in that space, doing wonders. So wishing you all the best, compliments of the season. Let's go out there and conquer the world together. All right, let's keep, this communication working for all of us. Let's be active on LinkedIn. I want to see what you guys are doing. I want to be able to support where I can. But don't forget the 10% to when the ministry moves to the permanent site. Make no forget to. All right, guys. Thank you very much for having me, and all the best. Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Zainab, your hand is up. Do you want to say something? Okay. That would have been a mistake. So thank you so much, everyone. And do have a wonderful evening. So bye, everyone. Yeah, good night.
Right.
Bye. Good night.
Good night, everyone. Thank you so much.